and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So first up, we have North Star Awards, and it's exciting to see some people here celebrating with us. So, Ms. Hyatt, do you want to talk with them?
So we have two top-notch third graders here with us today. And as a former math teacher, man, my heart is pounding for you guys to what you did. I love it. So we have Hudson Marsh and Kane Johnson. You want to come up here, folks? Are we missing? Hey, Kane, you don't get to go sit down yet. So you also get two certificates, one from us and one from the state. You want to turn around so Mom and Dad can take a video and picture. I'm going to read a little bit about what this is. So the Department of Education here in Indiana partnered with National Math Stars to recognize exceptional math talent across our state. We are pleased to announce that Belmont Elementary had 2 students this year who qualified to apply for the National Math Stars program. These students had to score in the top 2% of all third graders in the state in math based on their iLearn assessment, which is no easy test for those of you who have had any kids take it. National Math Stars is a nonprofit initiative that identifies talented second and third graders across multiple states who demonstrate exceptional promise in mathematics. Nominees represent the top 2% of their local school context or score in the 98th percentile nationally or state recognized exams. And so our Kane here is in Mrs. Ellsworth's class, and I know she's very proud of you. Mrs. Hutter, you're here. Do you have anything to say about Kane and Hudson?
Good job, buddy. I'm proud of you. Are you proud of yourself? Yeah, you're doing excellent.
We're very proud of you.
Yes, keep it up.
Good job. Congratulations, Mom and Dad. Yes, sir.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I know I probably shouldn't, and it's not time to be doing it. What are they doing about high abilities classes? Are they not having them again this year?
We've always had high ability programming. We just don't have separate sections anymore.
Okay.
But they have programming that they're going to do, and our director of learning here, as you can speak a little bit more, and Mrs. Hutter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll continue to have high ability enrichment
Okay.
opportunities into next year.
Okay.
And a lot of that will be STEM-based, so it'll play into what Kane's interests and strengths are.
Okay.
Thank you for asking them. So then next, we also have 2 Be Braves Awards, and we have 2 staff members here tonight from our food service department. So, congratulations to Mrs. Penny Henkinius and Mrs. Heather Hartman. You guys want to come on up and have to be embarrassed in front of everyone? Congratulations. And I'm going to have to read. You guys can turn around and face your fans. So these ladies, Penny was named the Indiana School Nutrition Association's Office Assistant of the Year for 25-26. Every year, ISNA recognizes a school nutrition colleague who values servant leadership and is dedicated to the field of school nutrition. I'm sure they had several applicants, and we were very lucky to get 2 folks who won in their respective areas. They are going to be recognized November 4th through 6th in South Bend at the state's school nutrition conference in November, and I think they got a monetary gift for to also be recognized. So we appreciate everything that Penny does to try to keep all the probably office aspects, organizational documentation, food service. And I'm going to put your boss on the spot here. Do you have anything to say about the role Penny plays in your organization?
Penny's an advocate for our department to parents and the community. She services the student accounts. She keeps things balanced. She's a great communicator. She's always flexible and accommodating. and just very, her adversity shows every day.
And then we also are recognizing Heather Hartman, one of our production managers in the food service office, and she received an award called the School Nutrition Association Superstar of the Year Award. And again, several applicants, and we're very proud of her for what she has done to, again, advocate for the food service industry as well as North Adams Food Service. And Erin, again, do you want to talk about what
Absolutely.
Heather has done?
So what Heather does is the day-to-day production. She's in charge of all locations and all meals served through North Adams Community Schools. So the miracle really is made with Heather. She's been with us for several years. She came up from just a food service worker and has managed through the operations. And if you've known, we've had several transitions. We've built a new campus. We've established a new kitchen, which comes with changes in staffing and changes in SOPs, and she has never hesitated to step up and do an excellent job. So, yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Hey, Penny, how many years have you been here? Penny?
I've been with North Adams 19 years.
19. And then Heather, how many years you been here? You think?
22.
Oh, okay. You won here too.
I would have to.
I wanted to thank all of you for coming. If for any reason you want to stay, we welcome that. I'm sure it'll be a riveting meeting. Lots of handbook conversations of different sorts. But if you have other things that you'd like to do tonight to celebrate with your student or your family members, you're welcome to go as well. Excited to see some students here that I haven't seen in a while.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would say, but I really haven't been feeling well already.
Oh,
I want to do anything.
understandable, understandable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so next up, we have public comment on agenda items. And we just lost all of our public, so don't be quiet. Yeah. The first item we have are our consensus items, but we will be striking the minutes from the last meeting from consensus items this month. We'll move those to next month.
There were a few additions since you received this agenda, so I wanted to note those. So under assignments, we did add Matt Conversay for the position of assistant girls soccer coach and Melissa Barton to be added as the interventionist teacher at Belmont Middle School. That is not a new position. It's going to be a little bit of an expanded role, but it is taking the place of Marissa Mayu, who you will see has asked for a change of position to take over for Melanie Wolfer in her retirement. And then we also had a resignation from Barb Anaya. It's a resignation in Indiana, but she had taught for many years in Colorado and has retired from Colorado officially too. And then again, the transfer of positions from Marissa Mayu from the reading interventionist in middle school to 6th grade English. And then Nicole Rich has been added to change positions from 6th grade social studies to 7th grade math. Wanted to take a couple of moments to talk about two retirements of long-time teachers here at North Adams. Melanie Wolfert has been teaching English language arts, and from what I understand, in sundry other positions for the last 33 years, and has been quite a pillar of our middle school community and our middle school programming. And I know that she makes great relationships with kids in the classroom. She has lots of special interests that she brings into the classroom. She's a great music person, and she's taught, I think, some enrichment classes with music and just done some things to help kids enjoy that. And we have been really blessed to have her, and we will miss her. Mike Keller is another longtime North Adams employee who's been here for 35 years teaching 7th grade math. And Mike is one of those people that, Melanie too, really, that how late, even later in your career, you can rejuvenate yourself. And Mike really took it upon himself to learn about this new math pedagogy called Building Thinking Classrooms, which is a whole different way of looking at teaching math here in the last few years. And he really bought into that, bought into data collection and data tracking, and has had some phenomenal growth with his students. And so we wish them both the best and lots of years to get to enjoy their families. And I think Melanie has a new grandchild that I'm sure she's going to be spending time with. So best of luck to them, and big thanks for everything they've done to help build North Adams.
It's a way of making you feel old, too.
Are you going to tell me you hired some of these people?
No, I didn't hire those two guys, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I know that. Start looking at the seniority list, and it used to be
yes,
on the first page.
yes.
No more.
My kids had them as teachers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have for consensus items.
Okay. Any questions or comments or motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the consensus and as presented with holding the minutes from the 15th.
I'll second that.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Wiley. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 5-0. Next, we have a program update from Erin.
Well, that worked out well.
Perfectly. So you all have a copy of our performance update for 25-26. Though our participation has decreased, and that's because of the number of population that we have. We've also countered that with decreasing our total operation expenses, so that the program stays within balance. New programming for the summer of 2026 includes one summer location that will be at Belmont Elementary. We'll serve breakfast 9 to 9:15, Monday through Friday, and we'll serve lunch 12:15 to 12:30. Something that we're introducing new this year are meals for the weekend, and those can be picked up on Fridays, right after service or as they get there. Those will be shelf-stable items, so they'll include peanut butter jelly, shelf-stable milk, fresh fruit, juice, and then peanut butter jelly might be a protein, or we're also doing the Star Kids chicken kit and tuna kit, and those will alternate throughout this first month of June.
Do they have to have a student in North Adams to be able to?
They do not have to be a student of North Adams, but the student has to be with them in order to participate. Further updates include we have our 2 health inspections, and again, we used to be able to say we passed with 100%. They've changed the form, so now it's no risk factor intervention violations or repeats. During our waiver days, we took the opportunity to take our staff and our janitors on field trips. So our first field trip was to Knurt Dairy Farm in Allen County. They have a dairy shop, so we got to see them make cheese curds. We got to purchase some items. They also had a small cafe, so we had pizza and milkshakes. And then just on our last waiver day, we went to MVP LLC Farms in Salina, Ohio. It's only a 45-minute drive. That included 3,700 milking cows. They also had an educational center, a cow barn, and we learned about regenerative learning, or regenerative farming, and also got to find out that they produce milk exclusively for Danian yogurt, and Danian yogurt is something that we incorporate into one of our cold kits every day. So it's kind of like a farm to table, straight source. Other events that we hosted this year included Belmont High School Seniors with Seniors in November. We served over 190 adults and 131 students. We celebrated Friendsgiving in November with our elementary. We decorated and kind of made it a surprise for the kids in a Friendsgiving menu plan. We hosted, I think this is our 20th year hosting a Thanksgiving tasting with kindergartners, where we introduced them to items that might have been part of the original Thanksgiving meal, including cornbread, apple butter, dried cranberries, apple slices, colored carrots, and popcorn. We hosted a cooking workshop for our PK and K in December. I think it's been our 20th year since we, that was our 20th year doing that. That was always fun. We give the kids little chef hats, and they get to put sprinkles on their iced cookies, and they each have a little kit all of their own, and it's always fun. We celebrated Dr. Seuss's birthday in our elementary on March 2nd. And then this year, Ms. Hutter invited us to celebrate I Read in the elementary, serving Sundays to the 2nd and 3rd grades for their success. American Dairy Association of Indiana sponsored some handouts for our elementary cafe that included stickers, and then they also provided little trinkets for our Students of the Month. So it was nice to celebrate them during the lunch hour. Just recently, we hosted Donuts with Grown-Ups, and we served 249 adults and 453 students. Smuckers this year, for a new menu item, we did a taste testing. They have a peanut butter chocolate hazelnut. That is equivalent to a one meat, one bread exchange. And so now, for our elementary, we serve up to 5 to 7 meal choices. Those include 4 cold, 1 hot, and salads for grades 3 and 5. So our cold options include 3 Smucker options, grape, strawberry, chocolate, and then our yogurt kit, 2 pre-made salad options, and 1 hot meal options. And then that small kitchen, that's amazing. At our high school and middle school, we're up to 11 meal options every day, including 5 cold choices, 2 pre-made salad options, 2 hot meal options, and 2 pizza choices every day. We serve approximately 1,600 meals a day. I would even say as far as almost 1,700, because it's 1,650 to be exact, 57 to be exact. Belmont Elementary and Middle School will continue to be community eligibility, offering breakfast and lunch to all students for the next 3 years. What that means for our families is there's no charge for breakfast or lunch. And then I provided you with our free and reduced rates for each location. And just as a reminder, we do serve St. Joe and Zion in addition to our Belmont Elementary, Middle School, and High School. And then training-wise, our managers are all up to par on training hours. They complete nearly 30 a year. In addition, our management has just completed their ServSafe training, which will be good for the next 5 years. Any questions?
I think that's great information, Erin. Something to really be proud of. You guys work hard.
we stay pretty active.
Yeah.
And accommodating.
Yeah.
So just in case these folks get questions, do you want to talk about why we kind of pulled back on summer feeding? Because it had been a community-wide day, and that was kind of during COVID and some different things, but do you want to talk about just the financial aspect of why that was necessary to kind of downsize there?
So you need a minimum number of participants, and those participation numbers just weren't strong enough to continue through in our parks and et cetera. A lot of that has to do with co-op programming, and there's not a lot of that going on in our community as much as it used to be. Because of labor and food expenses, we generally say you gotta have 50 a day to participate, and if that number isn't consistent, you just can't financially support it. It's important that we keep the National School Lunch Program separate from the summer program so that it doesn't burden us with further expenses during the school year. And that's our main objective. That's
So
one of our
in
priorities.
June with summer school, summer camps, things like that, you have pretty strong participation,
Yes.
plus just community. But when, I think you were noticing when July rolled around, the numbers just really weren't there.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to give you guys a visual of one of the discussions in food service is about artificial colors, etc. So a lot of our cereals have already omitted those food colorings. But if you look at our packaging, so this is a commercial brand, Doritos. In our school lunches now, packaging is similar, but we have reduced fat, and we have no colors and artificial colorings added. So we're already seeing the push and the move towards that, and that includes our slushies and our juices, etc.
Also, wanted to give you kudos, we haven't really talked about it a lot, maybe Ms. Pranger has some things to add, I don't know, and it's still just in developing stages, but as part of the high school's move to incorporate more work-based learning as part of the new graduation requirements and high school redesign, we are trying to come up with ideas to do more student-led businesses as kind of entrepreneurship opportunities in the school. So we have been working with Barton Covillama, and Erin has been extremely helpful in helping our marketing and business management classes are kind of heading this up. They are trying, or still planning to put in play kind of a cafe shop, coffee shop for students. We're going to be repurposing some space down in one of the new dining halls. And, I really appreciate Erin helping them because it still has to meet the safe or the smart snack guidelines. And she got into some of her contacts and was able to go with a group of students and a couple of the business teachers to Logansport, who has one of these, and they figured out a lot of the things, probably learned from them of things not to do and what to do. And so we appreciate everything you and your staff have done to help support that endeavor. I think the kids are really excited about it, and I'm excited to see when it gets up and running. There's still quite a bit of legwork going on, but they're excited.
Since you threw my name out there, I'll tack on one of the fun parts about that. It's been a true collaborative effort. Like it's food service and guidance, and everyone up top. But the best part is like we'll have construction classes building it. We have our interior design classes designing it. It's going to be the work-based learning kids working in there. The business classes are coming up with business model. Like it's like
That's
all,
awesome.
it's
Special
awesome.
ed department,
Yeah,
help with
yeah.
deliveries and
Yeah.
things like that for some of our work study kids. Very nice. It'll be fun. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your notes.
Next, we have some policy updates, second reading. Looks like the first one is rescission of PO 5895 student employment.
Yeah. I think that actually got approved. Okay. Honestly, consensus items.
Oh, okay.
I think we're up to, the technical correct, no, I'm sorry, retention. Right, the retention is this. That's just because, again, we don't have a court license anymore for the school, unless they're from an out-of-state per kid, and that state requires it. So I gave you an updated packet to just kind of go through things. So 8390 is about animals on school property. Obviously, service animals are part of the law, and we honor that. Some of the choices that you could opt as a board to accept deal with emotional support animals and therapy dogs. My recommendation is not to include the language about the emotional support and therapy dogs. For this reason, presently there is not a great deal of formal regulation surrounding those two things, especially the emotional support, and it's very difficult to discern what type of training, what level of training, especially when you're talking about bringing an animal into a classroom setting. Service dogs have been extremely highly trained, and I'm just not as comfortable right now with considering the therapy dogs and the emotional support animals. The law is very clear on a few areas, miniature horses and dogs have been accepted as a therapy animal. But anyway,
See miniature horses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and the school had to pay for the transportation.
Oh, my God.
I'll make sure husband's aware of that.
Dean would probably be on board for that too, but I get it, but yeah, it was, again, for those for whom it's important, it's great. But, so I guess any discussion on that one, because that is, there's several areas that there's optional language in there. If you want to explore those two options, again, my recommendation initially is to forego that at this time. Not saying it'll be a forever thing. But right now, in my experience, when we've been approached about allowing especially emotional support animals, there just was not the level of training and widely accepted certification of those.
I think it would open us up to risk, like if you've got an animal that's not trained or falling inappropriately, the chance of harming another kid or something that doesn't make sense.
And then you also have allergies, right? And some of those things that you would have to accommodate potentially both sides. I don't know if you have any input on that particular item, Scott.
We should just be better in a school and not a landlord-tenant situation. This is a very touchy area of the law because it's, you don't want to turn your back on somebody who really needs something.
Right,
Right, as Jim has mentioned, the standard for determining what is being done for a support animal versus just bringing your pet along is pretty iffy. So if you just avoid it as much as you can, I think you're going to make things a lot to go. There'll be a case or two where a doctor will, this person needs to have this animal with them, and you accommodate.
And that can be evaluated on a case-by-case basis.
I think so. The emotional support.
When it involves IEPs or 504s,
Yeah.
that's a different consideration. But just as to open it up, like Scott said, we would end up with some pets that they provide comfort, but it's not necessarily something they have to medically or psychologically have to perform basic functions.
Well, IEPs and 504s have standards too, so you're going through that process to vet it.
Right. Yeah, and you can ask for, again, whatever providers might be appropriate. And there are kids who have that. There are kids who have seizure disorders who have seizure detecting dogs, and those are in schools. That we don't have one right now. There's ones that detect trauma. Diabetics, certain severe diabetics have animals that can detect when their blood glucose is getting too low or too high. So those are all things, again, like you said, work through it on a case-by-case basis. The next policy, so, I don't know if you want to vote on these one at a time, or you just want to go through them, and we'll discuss as we need to.
I'm okay with going with everything else says.
And voting at the end.
Yes, I'm too.
Okay, 8405, this one just has changes, basically because we have provided childcare and pre-K that we have to make sure we are having our water tested as per state law, which we are. Just didn't have that in. 8451 deals with parasitic infestations, bed lice, and bed bugs. Basically, it just changes anywhere the word lice was used to parasitic infestation, because now bed bugs are part of this language too. Bed bugs are becoming more common, and it just provides some language on how we handle that, which is, when do you send someone home? What do you do with their items? How long do they need to stay out? With lice, can they have live bugs or nits and still be? And again, health department rules state that neither of these things are necessarily a health issue, as far as they're an inconvenience and a nuisance, but they're not anything that are going to make someone highly at risk of being ill. So it's more of a management strategy. They don't really want to see us excluding kids for long periods of time because of this. It's really try to contain it, educate on proper ways of getting rid of the infestation, continue monitoring, and repeat if necessary. 8462, child abuse and neglect. One of the only notes I had to myself as far as an option, I did recommend accepting the option that if a child presented as a victim, as an alleged victim or potential victim of child abuse or neglect, that minimally we would have our school nurse assess them for any things that she can assess them for, and if there were need to have any medical intervention, to recommend that to whatever authorities would be addressing it. This one also requires, if there's anything that could be suspected to be a crime in the report, that we also have to report to law enforcement. It's not a can. If you report to DCS, you must also report to law enforcement. Any questions on that one? Okay, 7540.02, digital content accessibility. This one had a lot of changes to it. I recommended including student content option because I just feel in this current age, students could be helping with websites. They could be running even some student-led with supervision social media for the school. We are looking at starting a sports broadcasting course next year under Mr. Webb, and so there would be some content they would be creating, as well as just probably live voiceovers and things like that from podcasts or radio broadcasting. So I wanted to include student content as an option on page 38 and 43. It has to meet the guidelines of the school, the district, as well as the state, and it has to be approved by a staff member or monitored by a staff member on page 39. 41 to 42, this is about staff use of digital content. Basically, it says staff members shouldn't use their own personal platforms or their own personal accounts or apps that require a student to have to access those personal accounts. It should be things that are provided through the school or vetted by the school. And they may not post anything that would be identifiable, confidential information about students. That goes against our media release policies. Page 48 is about digital accommodation and digital accessibility from ADA standpoint. Basically, it says if you have questions, concerns, it tells them who to contact, which is central office. I recommended 5 days for us once we receive a complaint or a concern about ADA accessibility to try to resolve it. And then I think I said annually we would have some type of audit of our substantially high use digital content for ADA accessibility, because that's just part of the law language as well. probably largely fall under Justin's communication person. But he already tries to manage a lot of that through our website and social media. Page 54 says the director of learning is who I recommend approves apps to be used in the classroom as an instructional tool. And then 56 and 57 deal with annual training is what I recommended for staff who create content for the school to talk about digital accessibility, if there's any changes and anything. Again, a very long policy for, doesn't seem like real big ideas, but it's very far reaching. Any questions or comments there? 8455 is talking about coach training references and IHSAA reporting. We already do a lot of these things. It's in other policy pieces, and this is just another one, another group of people that had to have some of this. So the first one on page 60, I recommended that anyone that sponsors an athletic type activity also be included in this language. 62 and 63 talks about the required trainings that we already require, the cardiac, subcardiac arrest, heat-related illnesses, concussion management. But these folks would be required to, I think it's every 2 years they have to renew that training. And then 67 to 68 talks about they are mandatory reporters too. So if there's anything that would need to be reported to law enforcement, DCS, school administration, they are mandatory reporters. 8800 patriotic and religious observances. Most of this change, and again, this is an older update that I just now got around to because it didn't have anything real pressing, but it's basically the national motto and how that may be displayed and not displayed in a classroom setting. 6220 budget preparation. That just has a couple, one or two as far as choices in it, required elements in a budget report to the board annually. 7455, accounting systems for capital assets. It just corrected a state board of accounts reference, and let's see, it explains better the costs included in capital assets. And I think it cleans up some references to some other policies and some cross-referencing. 6230, budget hearing. Let's see, this is just a slight revision to this policy to clarify the budget approved by the board is made available in the manner and at places required by law and resolves the questions about the term form being a document or a manner in which it's to be supplied. A lot of legalese for, again, something not that. 8220, school day. This is, again, a policy that's been around for a while. This is practice we've already been doing. Unless you guys want to be that person, it says the superintendent has the right for you to choose if we make up a day, like use a snow makeup day or add it to the end of the calendar, or apply for this to the state for a waiver. Especially in years that there are lots of makeup days. I think some folks down toward Indy and central Indiana had to do that this year because they had some really severe winter weather and ice that kept them out for a while. And then page 86 was the superintendent can decide if there's after-school events are going to go on practices, games, or weekend events in blue or inclement weather. 8600 transportation. I am going to ask that, because this is going to be one of those things that we're going to talk about tomorrow, I'm going to remove that one and ask that that be removed and struck from tonight's meeting, because I think there's some things we can talk about tomorrow in our executive session when we look at budgets and things like that. And then the final policy, 8121, background checks. Right now, page 92, I suggested we do not check the national CPS check. We have never done that on any other staff, not to mention contracted staff. I will tell you, just for your knowledge, most 90-some% of the contracted staff we work with, especially when it's in construction projects, they do their own background checks, and then that's part of the contract that they have to supply that information for us or have it on file for anyone who may work here. I did check that we could check with the BMV for any outstanding traffic violations if they are working to drive for us. And page 94, again, just like other staff that we have already voted on policies similar to for contracted services, there is now a big list of potential charges that an individual may have faced that a school board can choose to still hire that person if you wish, but they have to be on a special part of the board agenda for that consideration to happen. But again, we've already gone through that with every other category of staff, and so I think that's some new ones. Any questions about anything else? And again, I would recommend striking policy A600 for tonight.
Any questions or comments or a motion to approve the policy with the exception of 8600? Motion by Joel, is there a second? Second by Michelle. Motion by Joel, seconded by Michelle to approve all the policies with the exception of 8600. All those in favor, not by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 5-0. Next, we have new business. The first item is approval of summer school staff based on student enrollment.
Nicole, do you want to talk about PNU?
Sure.
Running Facebook.
Sure.
This was one of the things that, again, I think we were going to share with you tomorrow, but we can do it here tonight too. So the summer school this year is going to look a little different than it has, and a lot of that is because of how the state has changed some different requirements of the different grade bands, as well as how they are funding summer school. Previously, pretty much if you met a minimum number of kids, you were going to get reimbursed up to a certain amount, and that they have a little bit more complex of a formula now. So Nicole can explain kind of what we're having summer school for, who we're having summer school for, and why.
Sure. So the state is going to prioritize grades 2 and 3. Again, this year, students who have not passed iRead will be the priority for summer school. And students who are in grades 2 and 3 will have the highest allocation per student awarded to them for summer school. We are also able to offer additional programming, but your per student rate is going to be less than the priority course, which is iRead. And so one of the things that we had to consider for this year is how many students are interested in attending, and of that interest, with the new per student rate that we were given, can we afford to run that programming? And so instead of getting just one lump sum like we have in the past, we're now getting a per student allocation, and that's really going to impact our programming. So when we look at our K-1 programming, for example, our interest was a lot lower, significantly lower, and we are not able to run that programming with the way that the state is doing the rates. So those students are going to be attending the Boys and Girls Club. So parents were contacted, and they are still able to have a summer school option. It's just going to be ran at the Boys Club. They have a separate grant fund that they're able to run their programming through. So it will look different this year. It's based on numbers, and our allocations will be per student. I can go into more detail tomorrow about those numbers and specifics, but that kind of gives an overview of how it will look this year.
And high school?
Yeah, high school is also going to be similar to the rate of what a K-1 would be, because again, grades 2 and 3 are the priority. So I have worked with Ms. Todd at the high school, and we've looked at numbers. So we're going to be running a credit recovery. We have strong numbers to run that program. And then we're also going to be looking to run an Algebra 1 remediation course and an ELA. And that is to help support the new graduation requirements, so that students who have failed 1 or 2 semesters of ELA or math, English or math this year, that they will be able to recover those credits. Funding will be based on completion of those students. So the students have to attend and pass in order to get funded for their per student rate. So we're making sure we have plenty of students in those courses this summer school. So we are able to run high school programming, it just looks a little bit
And
different.
hog tying, you have to.
So the split positions, explain that a little bit if you would, like are they each working just a portion of the day or a portion of
Correct,
the?
they are going to job share that position.
Okay.
And that is similar to what they have done in the past.
Any other questions or comments or a motion to approve the summer school staffing?
I'll make a motion to approve the summer school staffing as presented.
Okay, motion by Wiley, is there a second? A second by Joel. Motion by Wiley, second by Joel to approve summer school staffing as presented. All those in favor, announce by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 5-0. Next is the approval of the summer feeding program.
So I think Erin, just to kind of explain to you what would be happening and when, so it's most of June,
It's all of June, yeah.
all of June, and lunch and breakfast,
Breakfast and lunch both for summer school students and for the public.
and then Friday take home for the community and students who qualify, or who are there.
Yeah.
You don't even have to qualify, right?
No.
There's no qualification, it's just if you feel you would like one, as long as you have a student of school age with you.
That's it.
So the student can come by themselves?
The students can come by themselves.
Any questions or comments or motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Wiley, is there a second? A second by Michelle. Motion by Wiley, second by Michelle to approve the summer feeding program as presented. All those in favor, announce by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 5-0. Next is the classified handbook, first reading.
So I tried to, in the notes, give you a chart on the classified handbooks that would kind of just highlight what the significant changes were. There's some wordage things that we're cleaning up every year. So in the classified handbook on page 3, we are, I don't want to say adding a new position, we're expanding an existing position that is listed under the 260. So we currently have had for a long time a district cataloger who is the person that receives all of our items that have been ordered. And she logs them, unpacks them, makes sure they get to who they're supposed to. We have to have many of our items barcoded. She does all that, gets it entered into Destiny, our asset management program, as well as our library program. We have been increasingly seeing more and more difficulty with the expanded responsibility in our business department, Beth in particular. She has been our primary person to order everything because we had decreased things. So she also has to get the entire budget for the next year done and submitted in the summer. Close out one fiscal year, get ready to open another fiscal year, plus all just the regular stuff we do on a daily basis. So Amanda Richmond had talked about being interested in expanding her role, and so we are going to give her some increased responsibility with purchasing as well as receiving. So we're going to call this a purchasing and receiving clerk. And so that is again, not really a new position, but expanded responsibility position. And so she will be doing a lot of the purchasing and working closely with them, in addition to supporting the library and doing all the receiving and getting items out to staff. So on page 3, page 4 to 7, employment policies. I was able to cross-reference about 8 different classified manuals from across Indiana, and I decided to include some references to existing policies that we have, the sexual harassment, safe workplace, compliance type things. It's nothing that was, again, any big surprises, things that already exist. They just were not included. Page 7, continued employment. We've had a couple situations for some specific duties wherein the staff member has to be able to perform some physical tasks in order to accomplish their essential job functions. We had never had it spelled in the employee handbook that we could request that a physical assessment happen with someone with a corporate medical or a preferred medical provider in order to assess their physical capabilities against what their job functions are. Again, it's not anything that every person has to do, but if there becomes an issue or a concern that someone might not be able to assist a student, if assisting a student physically is part of your responsibility, it allows us to make sure that that is a safe situation for the student as well as the employee, with someone that is capable of doing that through their licensure.
And just for clarification, I think it's there, but in the job description, it does spell out what the physical requirement is, correct?
Now, yes, for several of them, there's a few job descriptions I need to go back and update.
But that is the intent.
Yes, yes. So for example, if you have a bus aide who is struggling with their mobility to be able to climb stairs and they can't get on and off and they aren't able to necessarily navigate to assist preschool students from buckling and unbuckling, or they're not able to assist special needs students from getting on and off the bus, you might also have orthopedic issues. That's a concern. If you have a custodian who cannot lift and is going to have pretty much a permanent lifting restriction over what we need to be able to lift, that might be a consideration as well. If there's, certainly we're all expected to make reasonable accommodations when we can for every job, but there's a point in time, again, for essential job functions have to be able to largely be met.
That's also what help in hiring.
Yes. We have started putting those in our postings. There's a physical element of why you might need to be able to lift, you have to be able to bend, squat, stand for long periods of time, be on a ladder, those kinds of things. We had never had a written in the handbook discipline. Yeah, almost good. It happened That's good. Discipline procedures for classified staff. Again, it's not anything earth-shattering. It's pretty much a warning and improvement plan, and then 3 strikes, and we're probably going to do something differently. And then a rejoinder that anything terribly egregious can move directly to the 3rd step. Time reports. This is to try to stop folks from working the time clock. And again, we're not interested in every day looking at the time clock. These are for patterns of things. We are having some situations because of the way Frontline works, our time clock. The example I gave you, if someone is to begin their day at 8 a.m., for example, as long as they clock in before 8:07, it shows up that they clocked in at 8, or it accepts that they clocked in at 8. Similarly, if they're supposed to be done at 2:30, they can clock out as early as 2:22. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot until it happens every day, and then you're talking about a few hours over the course of a week that someone's getting paid for not working. So that is something that, again, I think the language in there is when it establishes a pattern, that it implies an intent to kind of defraud the system, that is going to potentially result in a disciplinary infraction.
Is it automatically redirect if it's like, say you're supposed to clock out at 2:30, but you clock out at 2:37, does it give them that 7 minutes to stop it? Like, is that grace period in the afternoon too? I know a lot of businesses have kind of gone to that, quite honestly, it's just that general rule of thumb, but.
It goes the other way. If you're over the 7 minutes, yes, that can be another thing that it could work into overtime too. It definitely can be used to maximize your pay, minimize your hours work.
Okay.
It's the beauty of technology and the terrible part of technology. So it's, again,
The way you set a pattern,
Yeah.
it says that
look, everybody can clock in a minute late or a minute, or, I mean, that's not what we're looking at. We're talking about when it's obviously trying to maximize, again, pay versus minutes worked or hours worked. Remote work, I saw this verbiage in a different manual. Again, we don't allow very much as a rule of thumb working remotely, but there are times it makes sense for people to be able to work from home if it works in their job, but wanted to have some verbiage in there just in case. We haven't run into any problems, but in case we sometimes would, there's something in policy to go back on that says this is, you should be accessible, productivity is still expected. Bereavement leave, we have had a lot of people in their probationary time period taking advantage of the different leave we have had. And again, that may or may not be okay. Last year, we did put a 60-day probationary period in place that disallowed taking any personal or illness leave during the 60-day probationary period for new hires. Some of the directors talked to me and requested that we consider bereavement because they had been seeing that a lot. I felt we needed some type of compromise, I guess. So I said for immediate family during that 60-day probationary period, they could have 3 days. Again, that's what you guys are for, is up for discussion. This is a first reading. I also added,
Ask you a quick question. What is immediate?
it's listed in the, and we did add step parents into that list. I don't have it in front of me, but I think Stacy
Yeah,
does.
it's spouse, parents, including step-parents, child, stillborn child, miscarriage occurring beyond 12 weeks, brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, father-in-law, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, grandchild, or other persons living in the immediate household.
Pretty long list.
It is.
I'm comfortable with it.
It's just me feeling this, that's pretty.
That's what a definition.
Yeah.
Page 12 adds some additional language regarding patterns of illnesses. Again, we've had in there that we could request a doctor's note after 3 consecutive days of illness leave. Added some language in there that noted excessive absences, meaning you have exceeded your annually allotted illness leave, or illness that provides an indication of a pattern. So, for example, Fridays and Mondays are often missed, things like that, that we could ask that we need some kind of medical certification that they're the reason for this many illness leaves happening or this kind of pattern of leave.
Does Friday or Monday count as a reason for sickness?
Monday sometimes are a rough day, aren't they? Vacation, limited the amount of vacation time that may be taken at a time to 5 days without permission. There are folks who, again, because of maybe some ongoing medical conditions, have saved their vacation leave until the end of their annual allotment to make sure they didn't need it for other reasons. That's not what we're talking about. Again, there's the rejoinder here with permission is fine. We've just had some situations where someone may take their week vacation and then at the end of that vacation say we're going to continue to take more vacation. Now, yeah, there's language in there that should prevent that because of lack of notification, but this also, I think, is just an extra layer that there needs to be communication and thinking ahead because we have to make sure positions are covered. Workman's comp, we'll talk about this tomorrow as well, just when we talk about finances. We have had a record number of workman's comp claims this year, like more than we've had in the last 5 years combined. And so we didn't really have any language in our handbook about workman's comp, the process, or what to do if you're injured or on the job, so we just included a lot of that language. Probably 20 to 21 is what our classified staff most often have questions about, and that is, what do I do, again, if we have a delay or a cancellation? Who has to come in? What can I do? What do I need to take a sick day for, or a personal leave day, for, if I don't want to go unpaid? And we had never had any language in here about if the county or state says, probably the county says, we're under a travel emergency and it's only really emergency travel that's supposed to be happening. So we added some language and tried to clarify some of that. And then grievance, again, that's nothing earth-shattering. We have always done it informally, but it had never been written in here. So we just added it so that it had language applied to it. Again, this is a first reading, so if you have additional questions, comments, thoughts, please let me know and we can talk through this more.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. Next is the transportation.
This is the
Thank you.
meeting.
I was looking at the next
This is
one.
the
Okay.
meeting of the handbooks. And I have to apologize because some of these formatting issues and saving and printing issues, when you do a review and a tracking of changes, the PDF was not wanting to read correctly. So I don't know if what you received on your end, you could see these changes, but I had to do a lot of work here to try to get it to print out this way. Anyway, transportation handbook, not a lot of changes on this one. Basically just added some language about drivers typically are expected to find their own substitute, and we have always had that as practice. It just did not state that. In the absence of them doing that, obviously, they have to report it to their supervisor always, and that supervisor is then responsible ultimately for finding that coverage if the driver cannot. Idling, some extra information just about district and state policy on idling vehicles, especially buses. Next year, I don't know that I've talked to you a whole lot about this, except talking about a situation where we did have a student that got off on the wrong bus stop, and I'm hoping that the parent actually suggested this program. We looked into it, and we're going to go ahead and do this for next fall. It's a program, we have the program already called TransFinder, and this is an add-on, it's Wayfinder, so that on every bus, there will be kind of an iPad with a scanner. Students will be expected to either know a code or be able to check their picture on the iPad screen or scan an ID card. And basically, it checks the kid on the bus. If you don't show up as someone that should be on that bus, the expectation is you don't get on that bus. We need to make sure, especially with our younger kids, that they are getting on the bus they're supposed to be getting on, that somebody knows where they're getting on and where they're getting off. Same thing, they scan off. There is an app that parents can have that they are able to track where their kid is from their phone. Another nice thing, especially with our city routes that can have lots of kids and a little more fluid at times, like our Boys and Girls Club routes are packed full of students, that if we would hopefully never have a bus accident, we would be able to immediately get a roster with contact information of who was on the bus at the time of that accident, and not have to try to go talk to kids individually and get that information. We would be able to start contacting families immediately and have some level of comfort in knowing these kids were already off, this kid is on there. So it's going to be a big lift this summer to get that done, but.
So with a program like that, any student that could potentially be on the bus would be listed in the app for that particular bus. But if they're not necessarily riding, you should have the log on, log off. But they could, like, say 50 kids are routinely or identified as potential riders for that, but you may only have 27 on the average day or something. Okay.
Now, it is going to mean that you-
Marked it when, if they're not on the bus, then they wouldn't be marked. So,
Right.
okay.
Now, it does mean, which we've already had rules, you're not supposed to be changing buses and things like that. So for parents to call in, we're not going to be able to do a lot of bus switching, which we haven't been doing anyway, and that has helped keep things a lot cleaner. A little bit, sure, that if it's an emergency situation, that's why a secretary is going to have to get notification early enough that she can make some changes. But some of our buses are starting to get full enough that we can't just have
Extra.
Yeah, there's no more well, I want my kid to go to this kid's house after school for a birthday party.
Or, I was gonna say, 10 or 12 kids going to a birthday party.
Right,
if
yeah.
they're on one bus.
No, we can't,
Yeah.
and some of it's a lot of it's just safety of not being able to account for everyone and keep track of where everyone's supposed to be
That
going.
becomes a nightmare.
It does.
I think it's nice that parent came with a solution.
Yes, they were very helpful and very,
Blowing up social media.
I agree, they were very helpful and had a lot of positives and constructive suggestions, so we appreciated that. And it's ended up working out. Again, it's still all about, it's only as good as the humans that are inputting things, but I think has a lot of capacity to do a lot of good. Put some speed limit information on there, did want to establish a speed limit of 20 miles per hour on campus for buses. Not that we have any bus drivers with lead foot or anything. I don't think we do right now. Unauthorized riders on field trips. One of the things that I think one of the policies you guys just approved here in recent history had information about, like coaches' kids or bus drivers' grandkids or something about when or they could or could not ride on a bus for a field trip. So this just reflects that policy. And then we had just a little bit of new policy, I think, and something you just passed about post-accident testing for drugs or alcohol usage. So that was just added.
So next is the elementary school handbook.
The elementary and middle school handbooks are very similar. A lot of the changes in red that are not highlighted in yellow were just me kind of changing the tenor of some of the language, making it a little bit more, I think, family-friendly, perhaps. But the big things from the assistant principals are in yellow, and there's not a lot. The big one this year is from the state legislative changes to the cell phone policy. So luckily, the elementary middle school already had a no cell bell to bell. Now the difference is previously, especially at the high school, they might have been able to get them on passing period or lunch or something like that. That is no longer. The state is coming down really strictly saying we don't want it out during the school day whatsoever. They did allow, because at first the way the proposed language had been written, we thought we were all going to have to buy those security bags that pretty much blocked the signal, that lockers are allowed to be.
Yeah, I saw that lockers can be acceptable.
And that is going to be our acceptable
Okay.
use. They have to be powered off in their locker all day long. We are expecting to have to do some education with our families, because that's going to be a new thing. For folks to not understand, you might not have the ready access to your kids you've come to be used to. What I am hoping and going to encourage is we have been struggling for some time getting kids in this generation to use their email to communicate. So one thing I'm really going to impress upon families and parents is your kids all have devices that have email or messaging systems that are school vetted, that if you really have a message you need them to get, it would be great for them to get used to checking their email.
Well, there are a lot of them, because I've been under the impression by my kid that he is not one.
Well, probably not like Canvas Messenger and stuff, and it depends on the age, I'm not going to say that, but high school in particular, I'm going to really say, check your email, because we've been trying to teach that and preach that for some time, and so this might be a good way to do it.
It gives a really number. I've read all these handbooks.
Oh, great. I don't think in the elementary, those were the only, really the cell phone was the only thing that Tim,
Just from a cell phone perspective, I can see a lot of kickback coming from, and I know it's been transitioned in, so it's not as big of a gut punch. But I honestly think that coming from the world where I've done a bunch of education on the whole school shooter and those types of things, is that parent or family member, guardian, whomever it may be, sense of peace. It's like that may be their only way to communicate in a situation like that. So I think it's better served for us as a school community to up our education, what we're going to do in those times, simply because that is a spur of the moment where a second matters more than anything. And I think that inability to, oh my gosh, they're okay, or whatever it may be. I mean, we pray that it never happens, but it's like insurance. You don't need it till you need it. And I think the better prepared we can be is going to help us serve our community and our family members much better. And that's just, I have done, I don't know how much education in our school systems, and it's like, and for me personally, I think it would be kind of a you know, just knowing, and it's not necessarily distracting the child, but in that moment, like I said, we pray it never happens, and we hope it never happens, but we have to do the best preparation in the event.
I saw on the news just in the last couple of weeks, a trial, and a lot of it's happening in Texas. Drones are in a cabinet, and when there would be an emergency like that cabinet opens up, they're released, there's remote control of it, where they go seeking whoever that invader is, and they have some types of pellet that they can shoot at the invader, and it even showed the drone hitting at them and knocking this. There was a dummy that was being demonstrated.
I see that's
So
a little bit far down the pipe.
that's, oh yeah, I'm not suggesting but that was a very interesting concept.
Well, there is a lot of stuff with that. Usually someone intend on doing something like that. It doesn't take a whole lot to thwart their.
You have seconds. I mean, you have seconds to react.
Right,
So
right.
you are acted upon or you react in short order, and the best we can do. And it's just like, I know when we did our rebuild and so forth out here, I was one of the huge, I guess, proponents for, it's awesome to have our doors labeled, but we need to have them labeled interior and exterior. Because there's somebody, it only takes a matter of seconds for somebody to become so disoriented in a situation, whether it's a fire, whether it's a life-altering, situation where we have an active shooter or something. They need to be able to identify, I'm at door 5 or whatever, but then our fire personnel, police personnel, whomever, need to know what door they're coming to too for safety. Obviously, we're going to have police securing and everything, but I just,
Well, in that kind of emergency, it does become easy to be disoriented. I had an example of that in a school building when the fire alarm went off. It was during lunchtime, and I had a group of students start going as if it was a tornado drill that I had to intercept and say, no, this is a fire.
Yeah.
It was the kitchen had some smoke and set off the alarm. But yeah, in an emergency, things can.
The law does give the ability of the superintendent to say in emergency situations, students can access their cell phones. Now, I don't know, again, if what you're talking about, that's not really going to do anything whether or not.
Right,
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
One positive thing, assume most staff, elementary staff anyway, have them, and most of them communicate with parents through Remind or Class Dojo or something, and so there would be for the littles usually a way for the parent to know, I've got everybody, they're okay, that would be peace of mind. Secondary is harder because they're switching all the time.
I have a hard time with this policy just because, I mean, the state's regulated, but just, I mean, we're not teaching them how to manage cell phone use because they're gonna get in the real world and they're still gonna have to manage it at work hours. I even thought as like teachers, we can ask them to put it in their purse and, not use it for personal, usage during the school day too. So I just struggle with this one personally that, and I wish we could just help them navigate through that and teach them life skills and how to manage them because we're gonna have to do that.
I don't know why this one was such a huge push, because we all thought what they did last year was good enough with the don't have it out in class.
And this may not be the end to how it will be, ultimately as it rolls out and other technology and so forth.
We're such a huge technology-driven world.
We're going to go back to pagers.
Well, there's already a study happening, just FYI, we went through this whole big push that everyone needed to be one-to-one, and we're now in the big push for AI and STEM, and some of our state legislators are pushing to have a study on what has happened, especially in elementary, with the use of one-to-one devices, and I think we're going to start seeing discussions. I know we're going to start seeing discussions, so they're already out there, going back to more paper pencil, especially at the elementary level.
Yeah, there are some states that's already enacted, like kindergarten, first grade, no devices whatsoever. Which I think, again, that's going the wrong way. You gotta teach, you know, you gotta teach some responsibility there at an early age, but yet, where is that? There is a sweet spot where it's appropriate for both, but, you know.
There is, and I think that you have to understand child development.
Mm-hmm.
We don't teach 100% at any level with
Right.
technology. I would hate to eliminate it, but there should be a good balance at every level, and there's probably places that haven't done that, and that's not necessarily good, but there also is there are a lot of studies about kids and screen time and kids and technology, and it can be for kids that don't have that prefrontal cortex developed, which is all of our kids. There is a big struggle on whether they really can self-manage some of them. I don't know. I agree with you, there has to be, you gotta learn something, but I don't know. We're not done. I asked Mr. Pranger to come in. The high school has these changes about wireless communication, but he has proposed a different attendance policy, and it's going to look a lot different and sound a lot different. Well, not a lot different. He's going to explain to you the reasoning behind his proposed change, and especially with the new accountability system, and every level has big points associated with attendance. So you want to go ahead and
Please.
thank you for waiting.
Oh, yeah. Good discussions. Horses, drones. So as the handbook reads right now, we currently have, you can rack up all these attendances, excused, unexcused, whatever it may be, and then boom, at the semester, it resets, and then you start over. Within that, we also have a policy where it's called a 5-day limited absence policy, and that's per semester. So with the combination of this, over the 3 years I've been here, I've kind of seen how these things have been exploited by people who would do that. So one of the issues is, and this is usually our upperclassmen, they'll get that 5-day limited absence policy, which is like a parent can call a kid in and say, so-and-so's not feeling well, we got an orthodontist appointment. It's like, yeah, there's some built-in, and they're kind of gimmies, like, yeah, sure. But now, a lot of people see them as like, well, these are my days. They're my personal days. Like, I got 5 per semester, so 10 per year. And I assume that magic number was, this is the number where you get to 96% attendance, chronic absenteeism. So the original idea was, let's keep them 10 or under, and like we're good with the state. But the way kids are going about it now, it's like they'll burn through their days, and then they do get sick, or then they do want to do the senior skip day after prom, or mom or dad wants to take them on vacation. So it's a lot of times like they're using them like personal days, and they're just getting way past it. So our current overall attendance of kids that meet that 96% threshold who are under 10 days, it's in the 60%, which is it's bad. Which is, like, granted, there's some other schools in the area that are similar to that, but given our clientele, it should be a lot higher. So one of the things that I'm proposing is we do away with there's one more area where it causes problems too. A lot of kids who really need to be targeted with attendance policies, it's like they'll get into like 12, 13, so like they have some consequences, and like I'm just about to for lack of a better term, sink my teeth into them, get the prosecutor involved, and then boom, semester happens, clean slate, and then it's not till April, May, when it's like they're racking it back up. By that time, they have 20-some absences, and it's like I'm just now starting to get the ball rolling again, and really start to put pressure on parents, and then boom, school is done, clean slate the next year. So the proposal is do away with that break at the semester. With that, though, we'll add on, instead of having a 5-day limited absence policy, it's going to be a 6-day. The 7th absence would be a warning. So at 7, you're getting face-to-face with me. 8, 9, you're looking at like an after-school detention, 2-hour after-school detention. Once you get to 10, it's a Saturday school. Then they're starting to feel it a little bit. So by this point, I've contacted parents 4 times now. So if they do get to 11, and honestly 10.5 is the magic number. They can have 10.5, they're good. They get to 11, and they don't count for the accountability anymore. So you heard us bring up accountability. This is, the state is going to be grading us partially based on school attendance. It's one of the success indicators for each grade cohort. 9 and 10 will have their group, 11 and 12 will have their group. We're going to hear a lot about this if you haven't already. But the magic number for attendance is 96%, which is 10 or 10.5 if we're getting close. So what the policy does is it addresses the personal-based mentality. Like there's still some built in. Like there's some families that need that. And honestly, there's kids who, like, they do pretty darn good all year. Like they'll have a couple, like maybe half a day absence first semester. Second semester comes around, they get sick. And there's families who, they do want to go on vacation, not on our spring break. And there's a decent chunk of them. And usually those are our high-flying kids too. But if they got sick and they want to go on vacation, then they're getting letters from me in the mail about like, well, you already got 2 absences, or like, this puts you right on the line. And I've kind of bumped heads with some parents who are like, I have a great kid, and why does this matter? So it gives them a little more flexibility too, a little more leeway. So ultimately, targets the kids and the families who are really using it, who we need to address. And I think it helps those families that are doing what they're supposed to be doing and gives them a little more flexibility. There's one other thing in the policy. So you'll notice that the consequences are kind of drawn out more. It used to be, I think 6 or 7 absences. I can't believe I just did 6 or 7. 6 or 7 absences before we get the prosecutor involved. But what they're wanting to see, based on my communication with their office, is that there needs to be a longer history of consequences. So you'll see it's 10. 10's the number now of like on the 10th one, 10th unexcused, or 10th plus the 5-day or the 6-day limited absence policy. That's when the prosecutors can get involved. Like I would get the prosecutor involved, you know. So it's kind of a win-win-win-win in my eyes. Areas where I do expect it to be rocky is at first it's just different. So people that have been with North Adams under this policy for a long time, it's new to them. So it's, as soon as it's proved, it's all right, how are we getting messages out to parents? How are we letting them know? So the more messaging we can have on that is great. There's going to be some ticked off people. It's like the people who know the policy really, really well are the ones that abuse it the most. They're going to give the most pushback. Good, bring it on. And then, yeah, that's really about it. What questions do you guys have on that?
I have a comment. I think this is really a good thing, because as somebody who's in leadership out in the world, exactly what you're saying I see happen with young people I'm hiring. It's my days. I get these days off. What are you talking about? And it's very, very hard to rein in. And I think what you have proposed very much mirrors what you see when you're working somewhere. Like, you get to a certain level, there's consequences associated with it, and you don't get to take off 20 days a year in addition to other days. So I fully support it. I think it's a great change. I agree, people are going to be mad.
Yeah.
But I think it's important because you're preparing these kids to beyond high school. And they need to know what it's like when they get out there in the working world, that you can't just take your personal days.
One thing that's not in writing here, well, I guess it's in writing, but the way we do it is different. So when a student has a medical absence, it's excused. And people play that game too sometimes, where it's like they'll go to Fort Wayne to see this, that, and the other doctor just so they can get their kid out of school. It was less this year because we started looking at those notes this year, making calls and pushing doctors like, hey, so some of the people that were writing a lot aren't anymore. But this also gives a little more flexibility with we've had so many kids with just horrible things where they're missing 40, 50 days this year, like real days. And they still get the letters in the mail every time, like, hey, you're at this many absences. And they don't call me back, like, hey, kid has a mass in his lung and can't breathe, like, why are you getting on him? It's just procedural, but it's still in there for the people that do abuse it. So it's like, the medical is gonna count against or whatever, but it really pertains to the people that are abusing it. That's gonna be another area of pushback, I think, too, like, well, my kid gets sick all the time. Like, we're gonna work with the kids who are sick and bring the doctor's notes. Like, we're not going after them.
But there's also there's something out there for those that have an extended medical
Of course.
problem or illness that is extended, and there's ways to manage that too.
And like a lot of times, there's two things. And the biggest one is they do the ROI, where I can talk to the doctor and just like, hey, is this really what's happening? And
So extenuating circumstances are still going to be treated
Always.
as exceptions.
Right.
Any other things you wanted to talk about, Mark? I don't think there was a whole lot of other questions.
We revisit these rooms. I think it's a great idea.
You want all the remote controls in your
I'll
home?
take one.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, so work through the handbooks, right?
And those are all first readings, so again, questions, comments, please reach out.
Okay, next we have approval of revised Area 18 agreement.
So all, I think it's 8 now, school districts are having to approve this revision of the agreement, and then Brad Gates at Bluffton Harrison, who they are the LEA for Area 18, will then do one large collective, but they have to have all of our agreements first. So we have not redone the Area 18 agreement in a long time. There were some things that have been happening in the last couple of years that necessitated relooking at the agreement just for the longevity of the consortium. We've felt some of those things this year with some different programs being started in different districts without going through procedures that impacted our enrollment and our ability to continue to sustain programs because of loss of shared students. Programs starting that were very comparable to what were already happening in other schools, and so again, you're just basically robbing from Peter to pay Paul with numbers, and we're all in a situation now with budgets being tight and needing to make decisions based on numbers, and so some of that changed. We had a school system, Huntington North, pulled out, but we didn't have a lot of language in there about what that really needed to look at. So I was on this committee to revise this. The new director, Eric Muncie, gave just kind of a article by article change. I'm going to go through it really quickly. Article 2 was more of a larger change. We focused on that basically the school and the director, we will be monitoring student enrollment in programs, and any program that has under 10 students enrolled for 2 years or more will have to have a review by the governing board. Now, the governing board is not going to tell any school you can or can't have a program, but what it will say is you are or you are not eligible for Perkins dollars to help support that program if it's not showing to be well utilized. Article 3, we didn't really have anything in there about the number of votes, people voting that needed to be present for different decisions. Article 4 talked about advisory committee. Article 5 dealt with equipment. We've had a lot of situations like when Huntington withdrew, what happens to the equipment that Perkins dollars allocated to Area 18 had been given, and so we have included an inventory, disposal, and audit expectation language there. Transportation, again, we are an anomaly in that really it's largely the Adams and Wells County schools that share programs. The reason Huntington withdrew is that they pretty much had all the programs and they just self-supported themselves. Jay County does the same. Blackbird is a member of Muncie, the MAC, and Area 18, but they really don't send to any Area 18 schools because of distance. And so this parts set out a 30-mile, 30-minute rule, that if you are within 30 miles of 30 minutes of an Area 18 program, that is where you need to send your students and don't go out of the program or out of the consortium. Budget, I don't think we really have any big changes there. Cost allocation, we had, for as many schools as we had, everyone billed differently for the sending students you received, and so this is going to kind of streamline that and make everyone will fill out the same spreadsheet that will calculate what your reimbursement amount should be from sending schools. Article 10, capacity. Right now, it's not been an issue, but if we end up streamlining the number of programs, it could be basically, let's say our welding program. Any of the schools who could potentially send to us for welding, we have to look at the number of students who are participating in the high schools, and it would be a % of the potential maximum seats available, and that would be how it would be determined how many Belmont seats were given, AC seats, South Adams were given. If they didn't use their seats, then other schools could get them. Again, it's not been a problem because we have overexpanded ourselves and our offerings, I think, across all the 8 districts, but there's language in there for determining capacity and how those seats are allocated. A much more explicit language about how new programs can be formed, the timeline, the application process, and considerations for when a new program may be approved or not approved by the governing board. And then just some appendices with some different policies and forms that putting them in appendix will make it a lot easier to not have to just reopen the whole agreement. So that was a 30,000-foot view of, again, just trying to put things more in play that provides a little more structure, a little bit more support and unification among the Area 18 schools so that, again, we can provide quality CTE programming, but also maintain the efficiency of everyone's programs. There was a point where there was a lot of money in Perkins and everyone was trying to get their piece of it, but it has not, I think it's backfired a little bit. So we're trying to rein everything back in.
Some of that has been going on for a long time.
Yes, it has. That's what I've been told.
Yes.
From a few that have been there for a while. But yeah, I think we had this conversation
Yeah.
a bunch of years ago.
Approximately how many CTE programs does Belmont?
We have 13
13? Okay.
that are full pathways.
Okay.
I think there's 18 in Adams County, 14 of them are here.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the revised agreement?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Wiley, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Dave. Motion by Wiley, seconded by Dave to approve the revised Area 18 agreement. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 5-0. Next is the approval of 2 donations.
We want to thank Dave and Christina Coates for their very generous donations of $1,000 toward girls tennis and $1,000 toward boys volleyball. I'm sure that both of those programs will very much appreciate
Sorry,
this
that's-
added.
If IKEA doesn't have coach surgery, you just can't plug it.
Well, thank you.
You're going to have to get somebody to design a special golf glove or something.
The next one's the shoulder.
Thank you to them very much for, especially when it's a non-revenue sport, it's difficult to fundraise, difficult to get money for equipment, uniforms, just special things for the kids.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve those donations? Motion by Michelle, is there a second? Second by Joel. Motion by Michelle, second by Joel to approve the donations as presented. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 5-0. Next we have the superintendent's report.
Well, I can't believe we're in the last 2 weeks of school. Things just keep flying by. We are definitely ending fast and furious trying to get schedules for next year figured out. personnel allocations figured out, budgeting things figured out. Spring sports are still in full swing and fun to watch. Commencement is coming up May 22nd at 7 o'clock.
22nd or 29th?
29th.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, just we got
That's
like,
okay.
we were all like.
The last student day is May 22nd. Got myself confused. May 29th for graduation, sorry. Day of Awesome is on Thursday, which the elementary and middle school kids love, where they get all the bounce houses and get to run around like crazy. My little guy says, "Mom, we need to do this every day. Make this happen." I'm like, I don't think your teachers will agree. I know we have 8th grade and underclassmen award, or excuse me, 8th grade commencement coming up here, as well as high school underclassmen awards. Do you know the date on that? Pardon?
Monday.
Monday. And are we going to stream that? I can't remember what the decision was on that. I think so.
The plan was yes. I don't think arrangements have been made yet.
I know Justin's working on it. Their graduation just happened this week, so our first DARE graduation, and Zach Hess was very excited about that. And kids did awesome and saw some stuff on social media with that, and that was super fun for him. Yeah, that was super fun for him. We have been having bicycle rodeo going on. Nicole, you want to talk about our bicycle helmets? That's quite the hours of work on her part.
Yes, but it was a fun project. So we were able to, I wrote a grant. We were able to have all 3rd grade Belmont students that attend Safety Village. They were given a helmet after attending. It has the Belmont logo on it, and the kids love it. So it was a huge hit. So we're hoping to do that each year.
Autograph.
Yes.
And that's why I saw you guys out here.
Yes. Yes.
I was driving by, I saw you with the helmet.
Yes, that was why. So we can send some pictures in to thank them for the grant funds. So, yes, it was good.
Andrew is, I mean, Coda's this one, right?
Yeah, you know it, for sure. I'm probably forgetting some things, I'm sure. It is
Thursday, Rotary gets to honor our Belmont Middle School Students of the Month, the last section.
Oh, that's nice.
So they're coming over to Rotary.
The kids love that. That is a fun time for them. Well, and we did just have last week, the Rotary did the academic letter banquet, and that's always a really nice time. Get to honor a lot of our high school kids that are the top 10 in the class. So that was fun, and they always.
Being old, I was the first ever Rotary.
Were you?
Are you really?
Yeah. We both had real high at 60.
Well, our the Decatur Rotary Club started in 1915. So you were
We do have some great community who do a lot and to support our students and are always willing to step up when there's an opportunity to help them recognize them. So we appreciate that a great deal. It's been a good year. It's been a fast year, a really fast year. I really thought it doesn't seem that long ago that August was here, but it will be right back around and we'll be starting a new school year and it'll seem like overnight.
We'll have lost our summer.
Yeah. For sure. I think it's going to be a repeat of last year where it was so mild for so long.
Yeah, we need to get through these frost advisories.
Yes.
Summer.
Yeah. Never going to get a garden plant.
I know, they leave it in, I told them they're on their own now, but flowers are in. Another day, we're done.
Sink or swim.
Real quick, back to commencement's at 7, correct?
Yes.
All right.
And I think they usually like you to be there 6-ish. Does that sound about right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Any other matters to come before the board?
I just real briefly here quick, it probably, chances are the next legislative session could look different with the changes at the Senate. I attended the Decatur Chamber luncheon yesterday with Matt Lehman being presenting, and he did give some indication, he thought there would be some changes to property tax reform, more our favor, but, I mean, he wasn't specific at all. He made a comment that he kind of thinks the House will be acting more like adults than the Senate, where usually the Senate is more stable. So he said that may look a little different too, but anyways, we could, hopefully maybe at least a little bit of relief from what it looks, what we're told right now.
Hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
We shall see. It's going to be an active session, I'm sure.
I'm sure it will.
And there'll be a lot of, even just from a lobbying standpoint, there'll be, the power dynamic is going to shift somewhat because some of those incumbents were very influential on some of the big committees.
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of a question of who rises.
And it is budget year, so we'll be creating a new budget.
I did read, however, that the revenue far exceeded the prediction, I don't want to say far, but 7% over what was predicted at growth. So that's hopeful. Until the next forecast of short.
Yeah.
Hopefully won't be like the sky is falling.
Right.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.